1 week. That is how long it took. Morrisons had spent years promising shoppers 100% British lamb. Then, in May 2024, 7 days after attending the Prime Minister's farm to Fork Summit and publicly committing to British farming, they quietly introduced New Zealand lamb into 39 of their stores. The National Sheep Association called the timing really quite unbelievable. Morrisons called it commercial reality. And that single decision tells you almost everything you need to know about supermarket lamb in the UK. When you pick up a pack of lamb in a UK supermarket, you probably think you know what you're buying. You don't. Because the biggest lamb retailer in the country just broke a promise it made to British farmers at the Prime Minister's own farming summit and put cheaper imported lamb on its shelves a week later, and that's just the start. Today, we're going through what UK supermarket lamb labels are not telling you, where it really comes from, what may have happened to it before it reached the chilled cabinet, what those welfare logos actually mean, and which 3 retailers have refused to take the shortcut every other major supermarket has. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for and what to avoid. 1. British or imported. The sourcing promise. Most retailers break seasonally. The UK is the 3rd largest sheep meat exporter in the world. We produce good lamb in significant volumes across a landscape of small hill farms, upland commons, and lowland finishing systems. British lamb has genuine credentials, high welfare standards by international comparison, a predominantly pasture-based system, and a Red Tractor certification framework that, whatever its limitations, scores higher than both the Australian and New Zealand equivalents in independent AHDB assessments across most welfare categories. And yet, the big 4 supermarkets, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, and Morrisons, all import lamb from New Zealand and increasingly from Australia, placing it alongside British product on the same shelf with the same broadly positive imagery around it. Morrisons had committed to 100% British lamb in 2017. It broke that commitment in May 2024, starting a trial of New Zealand lamb in 39 stores. The National Sheep Association described the timing as really quite unbelievable, noting it coincided with the week Morrisons attended the Prime Minister's farm to Fork Summit. The blunt commercial reality, Morrisons itself admitted, was that New Zealand lamb is cheaper to source. Aldi had also previously pledged 100% British meat and quietly introduced New Zealand lamb in 2023. Tesco and Sainsbury's have long blended imported and domestic product, particularly out of season when British supply tightens. NFU Scotland's Shelf Watch survey in early 2024 found that Asda, Aldi, Tesco and M&S were all stocking imported lamb at the time, while Morrisons was still British only, weeks before it reversed that position. In the first 9 months of 2025, UK sheep meat imports reached 65,100 tonnes, a 7% increase on the same period in 2024. Australia, capitalising on tariff-free access under the UK-Australia trade deal, expanded its share by 39% year-on-year. New Zealand remained the dominant supplier overall. The cheaper the lamb in your basket, the more likely it travelled a very long way to get there. And none of this is hidden. The country of origin is legally required on the label, but it is not required to be prominent. It does not need to be on the front of the pack. It does not need to be explained in terms of what it means for freshness, welfare, or supply chain length. The law says it must be there. It says nothing about where. And once you know where that lamb actually came from, the next question is what happened to it on the way. 2. Fresh versus frozen. What that New Zealand leg has actually been through. New Zealand is approximately 11,500 miles from the United Kingdom. A frozen lamb leg from New Zealand is slaughtered, processed, packaged, and loaded onto a refrigerated container ship. That ship takes between 4 and 6 weeks to reach UK ports. The product then moves through the distribution chain, is thawed in a controlled environment, repackaged under a UK supermarket label, and placed in the chilled cabinet with a use-by date that suggests it is fresh. It is not fresh in any meaningful sense. It has been frozen. The thawing process is legal, and the product can be sold as chilled once defrosted, provided the label states it was previously frozen. In practice, that declaration, defrosted or previously frozen, is legally required on the packaging, but is typically printed in small text, nowhere near the front of pack. Around 62% of New Zealand lamb imports into the UK arrive frozen, according to AHDB data for January to March 2024. Frozen sheep legs alone made up 62% of those frozen imports. In peak periods around Easter and Eid, when demand for whole leg spikes, New Zealand processors have been known to air freight chilled product to meet tight deadlines. But the majority of what arrives is frozen, thawed, and placed next to British fresh product on a shelf that makes no visual distinction between them. A lamb leg in a British supermarket chilled cabinet in October or November has almost certainly never been frozen. That same lamb leg in February or March may have been frozen for months before you bought it. The cut, the packaging, the price, and the cabinet position may look identical. The product inside is not the same. The label tells you, but you have to know what to look for. 3. The label confusion. What the certifications actually mean. A 2025 survey by Humane World for Animals found that 65% of UK consumers believe that meat carrying a welfare assured label meant the animals had not been caged. 58% believe the Red Tractor logo prohibits cruel practices. Neither belief is correct. Red Tractor beef and lamb certification is the UK legal minimum. It covers food safety, traceability, and regulatory compliance. It does not require outdoor grazing access. It does not prohibit intensive indoor finishing systems. And it scored higher than the New Zealand Farm Assurance Programme in AHDB's independent comparative assessment, but not because the bar is high. Because the NZ scheme's bar is lower. RSPCA Assured is meaningfully different. It requires higher welfare standards across the animal's life. Independently assessed against RSPCA, science-based criteria covering housing, handling, transport, and slaughter. Soil Association requires outdoor access, lower stocking densities, no routine antibiotics, and GM-free feed. Neither of these logos is the one most shoppers see on standard supermarket lamb. That logo is Red Tractor, and it means the farm met the legal minimum. The packaging compounds this. 100% of major UK supermarket websites depict animals outdoors, according to research by the Animal Law Foundation published in March 2025. That same research found that 85% of UK farmed animals are raised in intensive indoor conditions. The image and the reality are not the same product. DEFRA's 2024 Impact Assessment on Fairer Food Labelling found that clearer labelling could increase UK farmers' profits by over £46 million annually and deliver £140 million in net social benefit. The government has not yet legislated for it. Until it does, the label is designed to reassure rather than inform. You are supposed to look at it and feel confident. You are not supposed to read it closely. And even if you did read it closely, there is one more part of the story the label cannot tell you at all. 4. The supply chain. What intensive finishing systems don't tell you. British lamb is broadly pasture-based. The majority of UK sheep are reared on hillsides and uplands, grazing outside for most of the year. But the finishing stage, the final weeks or months before slaughter when lambs are fattened to achieve market weight and specification, is where the picture becomes more varied. Intensive indoor finishing units have grown in the UK as farmers try to hit consistent supermarket specifications year-round. Supermarkets require specific fat scores, weight ranges, and confirmation grades that outdoor-only systems cannot reliably produce in all seasons. The result is that lambs, which spent most of their lives on a hillside, may spend their final weeks in a concrete-floored indoor unit, at higher stocking densities, on a concentrated feed ration designed to hit a commercial target rather than express natural behavior. None of this is disclosed on the label. Red Tractor does not require supermarkets to distinguish between a lamb finished outdoors and one finished intensively indoors. There is no mandatory method of production labeling for lamb in the UK. The packaging shows a field. The final weeks may not have involved one. For New Zealand and Australian lamb, the finishing system is generally more extensive, larger land areas, lower stocking densities, predominantly outdoor. The irony is that some imported lamb may have experienced a more extensive finishing system than British lamb produced to the same Red Tractor certification. The welfare picture is not as simple as the country of origin. What the label does not tell you is the only question that matters. How was this specific animal kept at every stage of its life? Until mandatory method of production labeling exists in the UK, that question cannot be answered by looking at the pack. So, here is what you can do with what you now know. Look for the country of origin and read what it actually says. British lamb or a Union Jack means the animal was born and raised here. New Zealand or Australia means it was not. Neither is automatically better or worse on welfare grounds, but they are different products. at different price points for different reasons, and you are entitled to make that choice consciously. If you see defrosted or previously frozen anywhere on the pack, you are buying something that was frozen for weeks or months before it arrived in the chilled cabinet. Look beyond Red Tractor when welfare is your concern. RSPCA Assured lamb carries independently verified higher welfare standards across the animal's whole life. Soil Association organic guarantees outdoor access, lower stocking density, and no routine antibiotic use. Both are available in UK supermarkets at a premium. If the price difference concerns you, the question to ask is not why welfare-certified lamb is expensive, but why standard supermarket lamb is as cheap as it is. Waitrose. Waitrose is the only major UK supermarket with a written commitment to sourcing all fresh and frozen own-label lamb from British farms throughout the entire year, including the winter months when domestic supply tightens and every other major retailer turns to imports. It does not sell any own-brand New Zealand or Australian lamb at any point in the calendar year. That commitment is contractual. It costs Waitrose money to maintain in low supply periods, and it has not been quietly reversed. The price of Waitrose lamb reflects a genuine sourcing decision, not marketing language. M&S sources 100% of its fresh lamb from British farms and has an explicit no frozen lamb policy across its own brand range. It does not sell frozen lamb under its own label at all. On welfare, M&S lamb sourcing operates under higher standards than the Red Tractor baseline, with requirements built into supplier contracts that go beyond certification minimums. M&S has faced no welfare investigations in its lamb supply chain in the period covered by this video. That is not a coincidence. It reflects the cost of maintaining sourcing standards that other retailers have chosen not to pay. Co-op. The Co-op has confirmed that all own brand lamb, fresh, frozen, and processed, is 100% British, consistently without seasonal exceptions. This commitment covers not just the chilled cabinet but processed products, including lamb mince, diced lamb, and ready meals, where other retailers routinely substitute imported lamb without the consumer being aware. The Co-op's animal welfare policy for sheep also commits to CCTV in all abattoirs handling own brand product, a specific verifiable standard that goes beyond what Red Tractor requires. These three retailers have made a commercial choice that costs them money. They have sourcing standards that reduce their margin. They have not abandoned those standards for a cheaper alternative when the economics got harder. That is meaningfully different from the retailers that have, and it is the most useful information this video can give you. Before you go, remember this. Not everything on a supermarket shelf is what it seems. If you found this investigation useful, subscribe to Food Check UK so you don't miss the next one. And I'm curious, what lamb do you usually buy? And have you ever noticed a difference between cheaper and premium options? Tell me in the comments below. At Food Check UK, we look past the packaging, break down the ingredients, and uncover what supermarkets don't always want you to see, so you can shop with confidence. And if you want to see the next product we investigated, click the video on your screen now, because the results might surprise you.